Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, former Marine Jill Schulman has transferred her skills into the corporate world and is assisting clients to improve their performance using science-backed research. Jill believes that bravery is a key component of successful performance, and she has published a book, The Science of Bravery, which aims to cultivate a brave mindset amongst business leaders. Jill, before we discuss the science of bravery and why it can improve performance, I'd like to take you back to the time with the US Marines and what you learned from this experience.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. Well, one thing I learned as a United States Marine that relates to what I do now, talking about bravery, is that anyone can learn to be brave. I take my story. When I got on a plane and flew to San Diego from Minnesota, where I grew up, I was not this courageous Marine yet. But there's a process that I went through, and over time, I learned how to develop that courage and to be brave. And in the Marine Corps, we kind of have a motto too, like we say, we make Marines. So it really kind of teaches a lesson that, developing skills or developing the skill of bravery is something that anyone can access as long as they're willing to put in the work and go through the process.
And what's involved in developing that skill of bravery?
There's a lot that goes into it. But number one is you first have to work on mindset. If you don't have any belief at all that you're going to be able to do something, you're going to have a hard time, taking action in the presence of fear. So it's really working on what I call a brave mindset. And in my book, in the workshops I teach people how to build a brave mindset, to start believing that it is possible. And then once you believe that it's possible, then you need to take brave action. Some people are what I call dreamers. They have all these goals, and I could do this, and I think I can do this, but then they don't take any action. So then we teach people how they can take brave actions, and we bring the science of bravery, the evidence to that. And then finally, it's always a little bit scary to step into things that make you, that you have fear of, to get out of your comfort zone. So brave relationships is the third thing that we teach, of surrounding yourself with the people to support you on that journey. So it's the combination of those three things that really help people build that skill of bravery.
And how did that bravery that you developed in the US Marine Corps translate to your corporate career?
Well, I used to think that what I learned about leadership and bravery in the Marine Corps would not translate to the civilian world. But what I learned as I decided to leap from the Marine Corps to corporate America is it's all the same stuff. I mean, these are people. People are people. And the same things that I found to be true in the Marine Corps were the exact same things that make people successful in the corporate world. What I learned is the corporate world and the Marine Corps, it's the exact same lessons on what makes a great leader, the exact same lessons that we teach to allow people to overcome their fear, to really go after the life that they want. It's all the same stuff because we're all humans.
So talk to us about why you decided to establish the Breakthrough Leadership Group.
Great question. When I decided to make the move to corporate America, I think I was a pretty good leader from everything I learned in the Marine Corps, but I was lucky enough to work for a big pharmaceutical company that really invested in leadership development. So as I was promoted to a leadership position and moved up in the organization, I was lucky enough to have access to all of these leadership development courses. And I got to tell you, it was a little bit humbling. I realized that I had so much to learn. I had all these aha moments, and even though I thought I knew everything about leadership, I kept growing and learning. And those leadership development courses had a profound impact on my success, in my confidence as a leader. And because I valued that so much, I wanted to do that. I wanted to get into the part of the business that created those experiences for others. So my last job in one of the Fortune 100 companies in Big Pharma was actually doing leadership development internally. And then I decided to start my own company so I could take it to a wider audience.
So how would you describe your clients, and more importantly, what are they trying to achieve when they engage with you?
Because I started my career in the healthcare space and biotech, pharma. That's the main place that I serve my clients only because that's who knows me, right? So that's kind of the sector. And really the reason why I'm brought into organizations is leaders and companies realize that the key to success and reaching the bottom line is not only a great product and great marketing strategies and all of that, but it goes down to human beings and motivation and getting into really the psychology of performance. Are people motivated? Are they inspired? Do they feel supported? Do people feel brave enough to overcome their self-limiting beliefs to perform at their best?
And when it comes to bravery, where is that needed most in business from your own insights?
I spend a lot of time with the commercial sides of the business, of people who are in like sales and marketing. I led in sales in the pharmaceutical industry, so those are a lot of people that I know. But if you think about people who are leading in the sales environment, that requires a lot of bravery. So I do feel like all aspects of the business, as we're developing our strategy and we're having to take calculated risks and we need to demonstrate that bravery. So I think everyone needs to build that bravery muscle, but I tend to do a lot of work in the commercial side of the business, and it's had a lot of value.
And how do you marry scientific research with practical tools to enable you to assist your clients with achieving their goals?
Well, when anytime a consultant like myself or a keynote speaker or even an author, like whenever we're giving people practical tips, I feel that we have a responsibility to make sure that everything that we teach is evidence-based. And I think I learned this because I did go into the pharmaceutical industry. Like I learned that you can't make a statement unless you can back it up with science as we're interacting with doctors, right? Healthcare providers. And so when I did leadership development within the pharmaceutical industry, that desire to make sure everything I said was backed in science just stuck with me. So any practical tool, like you need both. You want to make sure that anything that you're doing to develop yourself and your team, you want practical tips because you don't want just theory, but you want to know that the practical tips that you're getting are backed in empirical research. So that's what I bring to my clients. I went back to school a couple of years ago to get my master's in positive psychology just because I have such a desire to learn all the science. So I'm kind of a nerd that way. So practical tips and scientific base, like they need to be one and the same. If I just say, do this, Karl, because, well, it worked for me, well, that's not very responsible as a consultant. So I always marry the research and the practical tips together. They can be one and the same.
And Jill, talk to us about the comfort first narrative and how this approach can build resilience.
Well, if you talk about comfort, Karl, you hit definitely a nerve for me there. Comfort is something that is so tempting. In fact, there's a quote that I love by Marcus Aurelius, one of the famous Stoic philosophers, the Roman emperor. He says, comfort is the worst addiction. So, the lesson I try to teach in my book on the science of bravery is to teach people that please do not seek comfort, because when you seek comfort, you become less resilient. So we need to seek things that make us uncomfortable. And that discomfort actually leads to greater levels of success, number one, but more than that. And more importantly than success, it's happiness and well-being. So I'm trying to just send a message out to the world and present all the science behind it, because there's a mountain of evidence behind it, is do not seek comfort to live your best life. Seek discomfort and hard things. That will lead to a life well-lived and greater levels of well-being.
How do people end up in that comfortable position?
Right, you've got a job and it's, you figured it out. It's pretty easy. You get, you're being paid a good living and it's comfortable, but you have this internal desire to maybe do something more, but you don't because fear holds you back. Like, why would I leave this comfortable, easy job? Because, stepping away from it brings risk and fear. So, it's what I call the comfort trap. It's just, it feels good and it feels safe. And the way our brains are wired is we're more motivated by avoiding risk than going after things that are desirable. So people get stuck in this comfort trap. Like, I want to stay comfortable. I want things to be easy because that'll make my life better, right? And that's an incorrect assumption. So we need to, when things are too comfortable, that should be a sign not to stay with it, but that should be a clear sign that it's time to get uncomfortable and try to do something more or different.
The Science of Bravery. What prompted you to write it, and what are the key messages within it?
Yeah. Well, as I went back to school at the University of Pennsylvania and studied under Dr. Marty Seligman, the father of positive psychology. And as I went through this program, this ended up being like the area of research I wanted to do a deep dive. So I wrote my capstone at the end of my program at UPenn, basically on this subject. And what I knew I wanted to do is to get this message out to the largest audience possible. And so how do you do that? So there's two things. I'm getting on huge stages as a keynote speaker, and I'm writing a book, because those are two ways to get the message out to the largest audience. So the book is written as a parable because I think stories are the best way to learn. And in the book, you learn about basically these three skills: how to develop a brave mindset with practical tools, how to take brave action in the presence of fear. So bravery isn't eliminating fear. It's actually taking steps forward in the presence of fear. So you're going to learn practical tips on how to take brave action. And then I teach the concept of developing a brave tribe. You have to curate a team of people who are your brave tribe, the people that are going to support you, give you a hand, give you advice in your journey to achieve that hard thing. Many people they keep the same group of people around them. And a lot of times very well-intentioned people that are our family members or our friends are going to tell us like, oh, don't do that. That's risky. Just stay in the comfort zone. Stay in the job where you get a good living. Like, just don't do anything that is brave or that might encounter a lot of risk. So we've got to curate a brave tribe of people that are going to support us in the journey. And so the book tells us about those three different, brave mindset, brave actions, brave relationships in the book through a parable.
Are there any anecdotal stories that you can share with us today to illustrate the impact which your approach can have on leaders?
I'll tell you my story. I feel like I've been living a little small. I've got a great career. I started as a Marine. And then I went to corporate America. I've had my own breakthrough leadership, business for 10 years. But I will tell you, Karl, it was about 25 years ago, the first time that I saw a man speak on stage. His name was Keith Harrell. He's passed away, but he was a motivational speaker, but he talked about the science of mindset and an attitude. He wrote a book called Attitude is Everything. And he had such an inspiring message. He had an absolute profound impact on me. And now it's been, 24 years later, and I'm finally taking brave action to do what I've always wanted to do. So when I saw him speak on the stage, it was back when I was in, I think, my first job in the pharmaceutical industry. He had this profound impact. I ran after him and said, oh my gosh, this is so great. I want to do what you do. But it's taken me 24 years. I'm now living my model. I have to believe that I can do this. I'm meant to do this, right? I have to take brave actions toward it. I've got to leverage brave relationships. So, I've been living it a little bit too comfortable, right? And part of the reason why people research things is because they need it themselves, right? So I'm very proud of my past career, but now I'm finally starting to do the things that I've always really wanted to do, and I'm a living example of the model right now as we speak. So there's my story.
Great. And Jill, finally, as we enter an unparalleled realm where technology such as AI and quantum computing is evolving at a rapid pace, how will leaders need to adapt to these changes within their organizations?
I love talking about AI, and I just tell everyone I talk to, at least here's just my point of view, is, AI is not going to take your job. But what will take your job is if you're not leveraging AI. AI is something that can make all of us more efficient and more effective. And the one thing I hear from leaders across the globe, as I talk about, productivity and focusing on the right things, and the leaders ask me this question, like, how do I find more time? And really, leveraging AI can make us much more efficient and more effective. So we still need brain power of all of our workforce, but it can make everyone so much more effective and more productive and have more balance in life. If you want to have enough time to spend time, going to the gym and spending time with family, then start leveraging AI to do a better quality of work and then also be more productive, leveraging AI because it can help us get so much done that much faster. So in a lot of the workshops that I lead people through, I have them get out their devices and then open up either the AI that the company has developed for them or, just a typical one like ChatGPT. And as we go through the workshop, I have them use it during the workshop so that they're not fearful of it. So that's my take on AI. Every single person should be using it every day to better serve the people they lead, to better serve the customers that they're serving. It can make all of us better and more efficient.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Jill Schulman from the Breakthrough Leadership Group. And the need for bravery will certainly resonate with the business owners that are listening to the programme this morning.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.